Shalom. Today we're going to be looking at John chapter 19 and verse 19. It says, "And Pilate wrote a title and put it on the cross, and the writing was, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." So that is what the writing says that was above the Messiah's head when he was crucified. Let's go to verse 20. "This title then read many of the Jews, for the place where Jesus was crucified was nigh to the city." Now, here's the important part. It says, "And it was written in Hebrew and Greek and Latin." Right? So what is this actually saying about verse 19? Let's read verse 19 one more time. It says, "And Pilate wrote a title and put it on the cross, and the writing was, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, King of the Jews." What are these scriptures telling us about this statement here that is written in verse 19? It is actually telling us that this Jesus Christ of Nazareth, King of the Jews, was not there. It was not written in English. It was written in 3 languages. Right? So let's go back to the actual time period of the event. If you were to be standing there, or the people that stood there, did they know anything about this Jesus Christ? Did anyone of the people that stood there at the crucifixion knew anything about this? That is the question that you have to ask yourself. Did they know this writing of Nazareth, King of the Jews? No, they did not know this English writing. They knew it in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. Right? So the next thing is now, it says title. So we're going here, of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Right? No, it's talking about someone in particular. No, the actual person, whatever his name was, the name that his mother and father gave to him, whatever language he was named in, that is what his name will be in Greek, in Latin, and in English. You don't translate people's name. For example, if you're reading Iranian news and they're talking about Joe Biden, guess what? You will know exactly who they're talking about, even if you cannot read the Iranian language, because one word that will be written in the actual language of the person's identity is going to be Joe Biden. They're not going to translate that to the Iranian language. If you're reading something about Vladimir Putin and it's written in the Russian language, even if you don't understand what they're saying, you understand who it is talking about, because everyone knows the name Vladimir Putin. Right? Now, what is it called when, for example, my name is Andrew. What if I go sign some documents with a different name? Wouldn't I be charged for false identity or fake ID or something like that? If the name that is on my passport, if I have a different name other than the name that is on my passport or my ID, wouldn't I be imprisoned for that fake identification or whatever it is? So, whatever name it is that is on your passport, your birth certificate, your ID, your driver's license, that is the name that you will always have if you go to a country that the people speak Hebrew, if you go to a country where the people speak Greek, if you go to a country where the people speak Latin, the name that is actually on your ID is the only name that matters. It's not translated when you go to each country. So my name is Andrew. I was named in the English language. Guess what? The Chancellor of Germany cannot tell me that my name is Andreas when I go to Germany. If I go to Italy, the Prime Minister of Italy cannot tell me that my name is Andres. If I go to Italy, my name will always be Andrew in Hebrew and in Greek and in Latin and in all other languages. Right? You cannot translate your name. So if that principle is applied today, where all the presidents are called by their name in the language that they are named in, regardless of what language the speaker that is speaking speaks. So if the Chinese are talking about Vladimir Putin, when they say everything in Chinese, when it reaches to Vladimir Putin, they're going to say Vladimir Putin. If they're talking about Joe Biden, they're not going to say Joe Biden in Chinese. They're going to say Joe Biden. So why, when it comes to this, the principles changed? That's the hypocrisy. And then there are people that are actually telling you that the names do not matter. So if the names do not matter, the question is, why is it changed? Because the scripture says, then this title then read many of the Jews, for the place where Jesus was crucified was nigh to the city, and it was written in Hebrew and Greek and Latin. There was nothing says English there. So we have to kind of go back to that place of understanding, because we're reading it from this standpoint of today. We are not realizing that this was not above his head at the time of crucifixion. So where did this come from? Peter, Paul, none of them knew this name. Everyone understood King of the Jews in whatever language, but they all understood one name, and it was the name that the person had according to his identity. He was of Hebrew descent. What was he? What would he be doing with an English name that didn't even exist at that time? So we have to consider these things, that it's not as light as we would want it to be, right? And you have to understand there are people who are in position of power and authority that are feeding this ignorance to their followers. Okay, I guess they heard that, right? That's confirmation there from the Spirit, right? So we have to understand that it is important for us to know that the same principles you have about your name now is the same principles that was back then. So whatever your name is, there's no one else that can tell you, no matter what power they have. I mean, they can tell you, but it's in your consciousness to know not to believe such a whatever that is, right? There was no saying about anything written in English. So go back to that time period, Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. And even when you read, I'm gonna put the scripture on the screen with these different languages, and you will even see that there are different names when it comes to the translation. But because the kings of the earth say that your name should be translated to this in this language, does it mean that your name is translated? For example, if the kings of the earth say there are 24 hours in a day, does it mean that there are 24 hours in a day because the kings of the earth say that? Because if there are 24 hours in a day, how many hours are in the night? So it's the same thing. Your name, your identity is embedded in your name. For example, if I say I have a friend by the name of Wong Fai Seng, what identity automatically you attach to that name? Something like Chinese or Japanese, right? So it's the same. If you hear a name like Andrew, Brian, so forth, all of these are English names. There's an identity that is embedded. You understand? If you hear a name like Licinius, you hear Crixus, Tiberius, you already know that those are Greco-Roman names, right? You hear names like Yeshaya, Yahweh, Yada, Yahwada, all of those names. You already know that that's an Hebrew identity. So your name, your identity is embedded in the name itself. So don't follow that ignorance of these people who are teaching that the name does not matter. Because in the first place, again, if it did not matter, why did they change it in the first place? All right. So I just wanted to point that out for people to be conscious of the fact that it says it was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. There was no mention of English language. This word here is an English name. Right? So whatever your name is, let me give you an example of something. Whatever your name is in whatever language, right? It has to be the same in every other languages. The only thing is that according to the pronunciation, the phonetics of their language, they might pronounce some things different. For example, if someone is named this in Spanish, they would say Jesus based on the pronunciation because this is silent in their language, right? For us in English, the J is pronounced. So we would say Jesus, they would say Jesus. However, when you're writing, it's still the same Jesus. So while the pronunciation is altered a little bit, it does not take away the fact that it is the same, right? But you cannot have this here in English and then when you come over in another language, you're saying that it is IESOUS. No. Then your IDs would not, your signature would not match your passport, and they would not approve whatever you are doing. So why does this principle change when it comes down to the Bible? You see, the Bible was supposed to give us knowledge, but rather we are becoming more ignorant. We're losing ourselves in this religious thing. Rather than becoming spiritual, we are becoming more religious. We're becoming more ignorant. This was for the other nation to see our wisdom. But what is the wisdom when we're talking all this madness? Right? So, again, whatever your name is in the language that you were born in, the identity that you were born in, the culture that you were born in, that is your name in all languages and cultures throughout the earth. Remember, the throne of iniquity does not have any fellowship with you. So if they translate their names, that's okay with them. Your name cannot be translated. And you know what that is also saying? For example, my name is Andrew Anderson. Say, Andrew Anderson, founder of Cosmic Royalty. Say these people are still reigning 2,000 years from now. You know what they can do? They can come back, rewrite this history, and change it to say Andreas, founder of Cosmic Royalty 2,000 years ago. That's exactly what they did. So what people once knew to be true, after a period of time, it becomes right. So it's just to bring some clarity to that part, and I hope it gives some understanding. Shalom.